are also dedicated to running bills to protect animals and make the world a better place for them. I like to, it's popular down at the Capitol for people to say, be a voice for the voiceless. And I always correct them and say, they're not voiceless. They are speaking a different language. Would you call someone from India voiceless simply because they speak a different language than English? And there's so much we can learn from animals, so much wisdom, feeling of forgiveness, generosity. And so I love to watch animals just be. I love to see them existing in their natural state and doing what they do and not being punished for doing what they do. I notice one fault of, one probably unforgivable fault of humans is that we punish other species for not being more human. I don't understand that really. But over the last 7 years, I'm glad to say we've had, some victories, some things that I think have moved the conversation forward. And my goal in the very beginning was quite simple. I said, I want animals to be part of the conversation whenever and wherever decisions are being made that will impact the land, nature, and we always talk about humans. How will it impact humans? How will it impact people? I just wanted animals to be part of that discussion. And so we've gotten there partly. We have lots of work to do, as we always say, there's more to do. But I made a short list that I thought might be somewhat inspiring. And then I had a few words to share for after Jared and I take our leave and we have a new governor and, perhaps, I don't know if they're words of wisdom really, but advice about how to continue the progress and continue making a difference and what I've learned, because I do consider myself a perpetual student. But so 7 years ago, as some of you probably know, we have a program within the Department of Agriculture called the Bureau of Animal Protection. And it was established in 1990. So it was about 30 years old. And for 30 years, it had been staffed by one person. This is classic government. You create a position and then give it enough money to hire one person who really can't do anything except sit by the phone and answer and then make a log of complaints that come in. So what we did over the last 7 years was we developed that into the Division of Animal Welfare, which now includes the Bureau of Animal Protection, which has over 100 licensed agents who come to the rescue of farm animals and companion animals who are mistreated or neglected or abused. And we have also brought under that umbrella the Pet Animal Care and Facilities Program, which looks out for shelters and rescues and makes sure that they're doing right by the animals who are in their care. And that's been probably one of my proudest accomplishments because, as we know, farm animals are the ones who are unseen and unheard and need perhaps the most protection of all. Believe it or not, 7 years ago, invertebrates were not actually classified as wildlife, and therefore they could not be protected. And they are actually 97% of all life on Earth. And so we were able to pass a bill that classifies them as wildlife so they can now be protected. This year, the same for wild bison. They had been classified simply as livestock. Now they have a wildlife designation, which also allows them to be protected. We initiated the process to reintroduce the North American wolverine, which may happen before we're gone. If it doesn't, we'll just be tourists like everyone else, but it's exciting because they live in the high alpine. There's very few of them left in the wild. And Colorado was part of their historic range. We have been able to expand access to veterinary care, which, as you guys know, is cost prohibitive and actually just doesn't exist in large swaths of the state for one reason or another. And so we've been able to work on that. This is exciting too, I think. So we have a first in the nation state level investment in the protection of our wild horses. No other state, yes, no other state has put money and resources into the protection of our incredible wild horses. And we now actually have a yearly budget that goes toward their protection, and most importantly, allows them to continue living free on the open range instead of being rounded up by these horrible helicopters, which we unfortunately see too much of on the news. We've been able to crack down on puppy mills and kitten factories by prohibiting sales in public places, and also requiring that the information that consumers are empowered to make humane decisions by identifying where companion animals came from and finding out who the breeders are. We also have tried to tackle, this is kind of new, but tackle animal testing, which has been in the news a lot lately. It's a baby step, but it now requires research facilities who do perform tests on animals to ensure that those animals are available for adoption afterwards, which, as I said, it's not nearly enough. But this is the baby. It's a start. It's something that we can grow on. One thing, and this is exciting, I hope all of you will do this. So on your tax forms next year, there will be a new box that is a place where you can decide to donate some of your tax refund to a new fund that we created called the Animal Protection Fund. The Animal Protection Fund will go directly to helping farm animals and companion animals who are neglected or abused or mistreated, and to get them out of the situations where they're in trouble. So that's really exciting. It's novel, and it's not going to require any more from the legislature, which is always a nice thing. This is money that you guys can decide to donate to that fund. I will be. Again, a step in the process, but we now have a law that requires all eggs that are sold in Colorado to be cage-free eggs, and for all egg-laying hens to be cage-free. Again, it's not ideal, it's not perfect, but it is a step. It's a step towards where we eventually want to be. The best work, in my opinion, that we've done is we've actually given animal advocates and activists a seat at the tables where important decisions are being made. You guys probably have followed Colorado Parks and Wildlife, which sets all the regulations for the incredible wildlife we're lucky to share our state with. And we now have animal lovers, people who actually care and are not thinking of animals as a way to make money or as a resource to be harvested, but who actually believe they're more valuable alive than dead. And so they're on the commission now, and they are voting for animals, and that's well, you can't put a price on it. Oddly enough, there was no seat for a scientist. I don't know how that happened. When the statute was written, they had 3 seats for agriculture, 3 seats for hunters, a seat for an outfitter, and I think 2 at-large seats, but no scientists, no one who actually knows anything about these animals. So we have been working hard on building more wildlife crossings so that we can reduce habitat fragmentation and allow animals to migrate and get across the landscape without being hit by cars. And I was just the other day on Vail Pass, where we're building 3 wildlife crossings. There will be 1 overpass and 2 underpasses. And it's exciting. It's actually outside of Southwest Colorado, the only breeding population of the endangered Canada lynx. And so the ability for them to cross from one side of the road to the other is going to ensure the population can continue to grow and establish itself. And so those are just a few of the things that we've been working on. Like I said, we've got a year and a half left. I love receiving ideas and suggestions. As I told Ellen, I think 6.5 years ago, all the best ideas come from the advocates and activists because they're on the ground, and you have seen what happens. And so it's been a wonderful partnership to be at the Capitol and to be able to bring information back and knowledge and be able to give it to the governor and other decision makers and say, we need to do something about this and give animals the dignity and respect that they deserve. So I think I will leave it at that, Ellen. I wrote the list down. It's not exhaustive, but like I said, it's a start. And actually, I did have one last suggestion. So next year, of course, in November, we'll all have the opportunity to vote on who gets elected to office. And it's well past time that anyone and everyone who is running for office should have a position or an opinion, at least, on some animal issue. And so I want to encourage everyone, don't give your vote away until you've heard, that the candidate you're considering really does care, even if it's just something simple like, we want more veggie burgers or you want to shut down puppy mills, or whatever it might be, whatever you care about. I think it's important for candidates to hear what matters to the people, because after they're done being candidates and they're elected officials, you guys are the ones who they're going to be accountable to, and who they have to keep their campaign promises to. So I remember that's what Jared and I did on the campaign trail. And anyway, it's a pleasure to have been able to speak to all of you today. And thank you all so much for the work that you do, protecting animals and revealing the horrible injustices that humanity has wrought on so many species. We're moving. I wish we would move faster, but we're moving in the right direction. So, Ellen, I'm going to hand it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Daddy. People, I get love out of you. And if you have some time, come schmooze with the advocates here. You'll really love it. You have about 2 minutes. I realize you have to have another appointment real quick. So, human kids, they're not vegan. So, So anyway, Ross briefly mentioned an advocate who we lost 10 years ago this month. And to speak about Lisa Shapiro, she was in Boulder primarily, but known around the world. An amazing woman. So Kate is going to give us a story about Lisa. I miss her terribly. I miss her terribly.
Thank you so much, Ellen, and so do we all who had the pleasure and inspiration of knowing her. So I'm so glad to be here with all of you who care. What a wonderful community. What I'd like to do, oh, and by the way, I have on display over here, this is the program from Lisa's Celebration of Life, which was 10 years ago this summer. Has a lot of information about her and photos. So if you're interested, it'll be right over here after us. Okay, and also we were hoping Peg Farrar would be here to also share some comments. So Peg, if I have not seen you and you're here, please come on over. So I'd like to just share what all the many ways that Lisa contributed to the animal rights and vegan cause. She dedicated her life to promoting veganism as a means of relieving the suffering of animals. She worked tirelessly to advance veganism throughout her life in varied professional and volunteer capacities. She gave her heart, her soul, and her wisdom freely to anyone she felt was working to advance vegan causes. Lisa grew up in Brooklyn, moving to Boulder in 1985. Vegetarian at the time, she got a job at Crystal Market working in their deli. She became vegan soon after meeting Jack Norris, who was handing out "Please Don't Drink My Mama's Milk" brochures. In 1987, Lisa was hired by Wild Oats Market as their deli manager. She soon veganized the deli and continued in various managerial capacities for 17 years. It was here as a purchaser that she became intimately familiar with the struggles that small vegan businesses face. In 2006, she started the Boulder Meetup, which was one of her proudest achievements. And I'm happy to say that continues to this day, now known as the Boulder and Beyond Vegan Meetup. She was also a member of the Veg Fund Board. In 2011, she began working with the Tofurky Company as the company's first social media director, then marketing coordinator. Though at this time Lisa was suffering increasing pain in her back, she enthusiastically kept a full work schedule of attending veg fests, trade shows, demos, and other industry events, always representing the Tofurkey Company in a stellar light. And in his book, In Search of the Wild Tofurkey, the Tofurkey founder, Seth Tibbett, and in his acknowledgments in that book, he said, "To Lisa Shapiro, for your contagious, righteous, and uncompromising love of all animals." No longer with us in body, Lisa's passionate work lives on. It lives on in the darkest reaches of the factory farm system, which now shows signs of disruption. It is alive in the minds of, quote, happy meat lovers who have been challenged with inconvenient truths. It flourishes on college campuses that have new vegans demanding meal options in dining halls. It ripples outwards from the hundreds of people Lisa convinced to give plant-based diets a try. Thanks to Lisa, the lives of all animals, human and non-human, have been made better, and there is no greater legacy than that. Okay, so I don't see Peg. So Peg had just wanted to say how deeply touched she was by Lisa and how I think it's just inspirational for all of us still. So now I have the privilege of introducing our next speaker, who is somebody I know pretty well because he's my husband, Keith Akers. He has been active in vegetarian and vegan organizations since the 1980s and is currently a co-organizer of the Denver Vegans Meetup. He was interviewed in the recent documentary Christspiracy. He's written 4 books, which you can see at our literature table, including his latest, Embracing Limits, a radical and necessary approach to the environmental crisis. He'll be speaking today on climate change and animals. And this spring, he's celebrating having been a vegan for 45 years. Please welcome Keith Akers.
Thanks, Kate. I'm very glad to be here and to speak to you today on the topic of climate change and animals. I would add also that I also knew Lisa Shapiro. One of the last things she did in her last couple of years of her life was myself, Peg, Kate, and a few others. We were trying to start an organization that would focus specifically on environmental issues in the light of our treatment of animals. And so, well, she died and we never got off the ground. But I feel like I'm committed to continuing this legacy and to continuing to try to promote the message that this makes a big difference in the environment as well. And this is an important issue politically, as well as just because it affects animals. I want to make 3 points here. First of all, climate change is real. Probably not too many people need to do this with that, but I just thought I'd throw that out. Secondly, our treatment of animals is the key factor here. There's no way we're going to deal with climate change without addressing the animal issue. And third, environmental destruction is behind much of our political chaos. So let's look at each of those points. First of all, climate change is real. Not only is it real, but it is getting worse. And not only is it getting worse, it is getting worse faster. In 2023, James Hansen and a number of other climate scientists pointed out that there had been a sudden jump in global warming, that the temperature, the average global temperature had increased substantially. And it actually came very close to exceeding in 2023 the 1.5 degrees centigrade limit, 1.5 degrees centigrade above the pre-industrial average. Well, guess what? In 2024, we did reach 1.5 degrees centigrade, and it looks like that's where we're headed now. This is just to refresh your memory in case you're not following climate news. This was the limit that was set by the IPCC. We've got to do this or we're going to face climate catastrophe and all kinds of other things are going to start happening that we won't be able to control, even if we stop emitting greenhouse gas emissions. And well, we're already there. we thought we had until 2030. We actually didn't even have until 2024. So 1.5 degrees centigrade is here. And climate change is also accelerating. Not only is it getting worse, but it's getting worse faster. So each year it increases further, and then beyond that, it's increasing further a little more than it increased last year. Okay, and there's an important point to remember here when we're thinking about, oh, this is hopeless, nobody's going to listen to us. Climate change does not respond to politics. Mother Nature doesn't respond to political pressure. It doesn't matter how many people they deport, how many universities they shut down. You've got to deal with climate change. It's simply a fact, and it's going to get worse. It's already creating a crisis, and people, they don't think they have to deal with it, but guess what? They do. Point number 2, our treatment of animals is the key factor here. Most people are unaware of how totally humans dominate the biosphere just in biological terms. Let alone, of course, we think, okay, we're human beings, we have all these wonderful machines, we have cars, we have computers, we have all this other stuff. But
Turn this
we
on.
also dominate
Oh,
the planet
you're not paying
in
attention.
terms just of biology.
When I go,
Livestock and
I'm gonna need you to connect
yeah,
this
animal
to here,
agriculture
and
and
then
humans
turn this on.
are now 90% of all
You got it.
large animal biomass.
Just
When we think about
shot
wilderness,
like
we think,
this.
okay, well, somewhere out there's a land where, there are
Are you going on
like
next?
coyotes and wolves and bears and elephants and giraffes and bison and deer. All those kinds of animals are out there somewhere. Actually, they're not. 98% of the large animal biomass on this planet is basically us. It's us and our animals for agriculture, our food animals. In fact, there's more food animals than there are of us. About 2/3 of this biomass is food animals, about only 1/3 is humans. So yes, we have a population problem. It's not a population so much of humans that we have to worry about, but a population of animals that didn't really ask for this gig. Okay, and point number 3, environmental destruction is behind much of our political chaos. When resources get scarce and it seems to be harder to get a hold of things, people sort of get antsy and they sort of get nervous, and there's a strong invitation to start blaming people. There's a strong invitation to polarize the society unless you have a unified purpose. We do not have a unified purpose as a society right now. Unless we have a unified purpose, their divisions are going to increase. Science on climate is being censored, research is being shut down, and wilderness is being sold off. Now, just why do you think all of this is happening? Scientists have been saying for decades that we have to change our approach to nature, or it's going to affect us. It's not just going to affect the wild animals, it's going to affect human beings and the human economy. Well, guess what? That's happening now. World Scientists According to Humanity came out in 2017 and 1992. They said we've got to change. One of the things we have to do is reduce our consumption of meat, dramatically reduce our consumption of meat. We haven't done that, and guess what? We're facing the consequences now. Climate's not the only issue we've got. We've also got issues like soil erosion. Soil is eroding 10 times faster than the natural rate of soil formation. That can't go on forever. Groundwater depletion. They're talking, the 7 states of the West, they're part of this Colorado River compact, they're talking right now about how to deal with water shortages in the Colorado River. Because it's not just an endless flow of water. The Colorado River goes dry by the time it gets to the Pacific Ocean and the Gulf of California. And biodiversity collapse, obviously, you've only got 2% of the animals on the planet that are truly the wild animals, the large wild animals. 98% is humans and their food animals. So we totally biologically dominate the planet, and we're suffering because of it. So, point number 1, climate change is real. It's getting worse. It's getting worse faster. The issue is not going to go away. Point number 2, our treatment of animals is the key factor here. Animals breathe out carbon dioxide. Think about it. Okay, and carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. In the meantime, we're devastating the wildlife, all the plant matter, which has decreased 50% under human domination. All the plant matter through massive deforestation, plants have decreased by 50%. We're undercutting with our treatment metals and undercuts the whole process of photosynthesis. And photosynthesis is what takes carbon dioxide out of the air. Now, estimates of greenhouse gas emissions due to the animal agriculture business vary, but the most conservative were about 20%. But if you figure in carbon opportunity costs, what if we didn't put all those cows out in pasture and overgraze the landscape for profit? Well, probably a lot of these lands would reforest, where natural vegetation would take over, and that would draw huge amounts of carbon out of the atmosphere. Estimates vary between 100 and 200 gigatons of carbon that could be removed from the atmosphere if we did that. And to give you a basis of comparison, one scientific study has estimated that humans have put about 300 gigatons of carbon into the atmosphere due to all purposes. So this is 100 to 200 gigatons of carbon. That's a massive amount. No way you're going to deal with climate change without dealing with the agriculture industry. And point number 3, this is behind much of our political chaos. We can't just stand back. Or we can stand back, but Mother Nature is going to take over. So this is a unique historical opportunity. We've got an issue which people must deal with. And it's just going to get worse until they finally wake up and say, hey, maybe we need to do something. Is it hot enough for you yet? There's like talking about Canadian wildfires. When I first heard the story about Canadian wildfires, I thought, isn't this an old story? Isn't this what happened last year? No, it's this year. Already there are Canadian wildfires that are polluting vast parts of the American atmosphere. So this is a unique historical opportunity. These issues are not going away. Radical solutions are now necessary. Let's work together to create a vegan world. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. That's terrific. So our next speaker, I'm gonna have to call out her name because she's working at her booth right now. Kara, it's your turn. Here she comes. Kara Thorsten is a force to be reckoned with. She's working on eliminating puppy mills coming to Colorado, selling dogs and cats in pet stores. There's so much information out there about what puppy mills look like. Dogs are supposed to be man's best friend. If you saw a puppy mill, you would hardly believe it. Small cages, filthy cages, they poop on each other. Look it up. Do it on an empty stomach, though. So Kara has managed to, gosh, how many cities have already dropped? 24 cities in Colorado have dropped the sale of dogs and cats in pet stores. And thanks to Kara, there's going to be many more. May I present you Kara Thorsten?
Thank you, Ellen. Yes, so there's been, hi everyone, there's been a little bit of talk about that state law that passed prohibiting the sale of pets in public spaces, which would be a parking lot, street corner, farmer's market, anywhere outdoor. So a lot of people are saying it's dogs and cats. It's all pets. So if you see turtles being sold on Federal Boulevard in Denver, or even giving away, not just selling, fish being given away in little plastic bags at some sort of carnival or event, all that is illegal now. Yay. And, and it goes into effect August 6th. So that's the day to call the police and shut it down. There are a lot of puppy mill operations that drive. I've seen them in Fort Collins in my own park, driving in from Wyoming. They set up in a playground I had to yell at them to make them leave because we didn't have the ordinance yet. And they did. They left. They went back to their puppy mill in Wyoming, but they come from Nebraska, Oklahoma. I've seen even Oklahoma license plates in Fort Collins. They go to parking lots all over the state to sell their puppy mill dogs. And there's no accountability, right? They sell sick and genetically compromised pets and leave the residents of Colorado to deal with those vet bills. But I wanted to talk to you about city council. So what happens when a group of people like you and me walk into a city council meeting with a bold idea to protect animals? Well, I'll tell you. In Fort Collins, it changed the law. We were successful in passing legislation to prohibit the sale of dogs and cats in pet stores by approaching our city council members and asking for an ordinance. After our success in Fort Collins, I went to other cities. I found residents in Windsor, Greeley, Westminster, Arvada, and Denver. And I went with those residents to speak to their city council members. And now there are more laws in more cities. So we're lighting this spark, and it's turning into a movement across Colorado to end the sale of pets from puppy and kitten mills. So I wanted to talk, so in case I forgot to say, I'm Kara Thorson. Nice to meet all of you. And I want to talk to you about changing laws because I believe that there needs to be more compassion in our local government. So we've seen firsthand how one ordinance can close the door on animal cruelty. After the ordinance passed in Fort Collins, Pet City was the store there. They closed down permanently. Now they could have transitioned and sold food and leashes and toys, but since they owned a puppy mill that supplied the store, they closed down. And they were there for 35 years. But now they're out of business. Yay! So our strategy was pretty simple. Let's get political. We didn't protest, zero protests. We didn't contact the store owners. We didn't talk to their customers. And we didn't do anything to alert them and alert the opposition of our activities. Instead, we targeted the city council. That's where we strategically focused our campaign efforts. We met with our council members for in-depth, friendly conversations face-to-face. And we told them about pet stores and the puppy mill pipeline, and that basically all pet stores in Colorado source from puppy and kitten mills. They never source from local breeders because a puppy from a puppy mill costs about $200, and a local breeder can sell their puppies for $5,000. So they would never take that financial hit and give their puppies to a pet store. So we had to educate them. We emailed them. We never let up until they put the ordinance on their agenda for a vote. And there was a group that came before us. They stood outside Pet City for 4 years. Every weekend, holding signs, shouting at traffic, but nothing changed. So we decided to take a different approach. We decided to get organized and set up meetings with our council members. After all, they are our elected officials and they have the power to change everything. All we had to do was convince them that this ordinance was a good idea, beneficial for the community and the residents, and it was an opportunity to advance animal welfare. So one of the best ways to do that is to clearly explain what you want and why, knowing your issue backwards backwards and forwards is absolutely essential. But it also really helps to tell your city council, like, hey, everybody else is doing it, so come on, get on board. I always give them the list of cities and states that have passed similar laws, just like the one I'm proposing. And that's powerful because it gives them the comfort to know that they won't be seen as radical, because so many other cities have done it already. So has anyone here ever been to a protest? Raise your hand. All right, then I'm going to ask you. What do we want?
Liberation.
When do we want it?
Oh.
All right, you know the drill. So I love protesting. And don't get me wrong. Protests are absolutely necessary when no one will listen, when you hit that brick wall. And protests can be very useful when you want to put a spotlight on an issue and get some media attention. But we also have to recognize when society is ready to listen. When it comes to dogs and cats, that time is right now. Lawmakers are listening because pets are family. And that wasn't always the case. 50 years ago, my grandfather had a dog, a beagle, that lived in an outdoor pen, never came in the house. And most people would never have a dog sleep in their bed. That's just not how pets were viewed. But with every new generation, there's more empathy and there's more awareness. And that is because of you, the animal rights movement, educating the public and pushing for change. Yes, that is because of you. So you're probably wondering, so why doesn't every state have laws banning the sale of cats and dogs in pet stores, since they're coming from puppy and kitten hills? Why aren't there more laws to protect pets? That seems like a no-brainer. Well, it's because most of us aren't recognizing that the lawmakers are ready to hear what we have to say. We're at the point in the animal rights movement where we can pass laws on certain issues. And it's not only possible, it's probable to change policy. And when it comes to puppy, kitten, bunny mills, we have arrived. We just have to pursue it. We just need to be willing to have conversations with our elected officials. And many of you have noticed this shift in the animal rights movement to policymaking. Pro-Animal Future campaigns are a great example of where our movement is headed. Whether it's through ballot initiatives, starting a campaign with your local city council, or a statewide campaign like the CATS campaign, we can stop the animal abusers by changing the laws. Now, I know a political approach is new for some of you, but you have to ask yourself at this point in our movement, what is the best strategy? What can we do to create real change? Maybe having a friendly conversation with the people who make the laws could be much more effective than you think. I've met with 42 council members over the past year and a half, and they are listening. Tackling one city council after another, we're making change happen across Colorado to end the puppy mill pipeline. And I believe it's possible to build on what we've already accomplished. Next year, I plan to go back to the Fort Collins City Council and ask them to consider another ordinance. Hope they're scared when they see me come. The ordinance that we want to ask for this time is to prohibit animal testing on dogs and cats. Right now, there are labs in Fort Collins torturing dogs and cats, and it has to stop. Here's the thing, these council members, they already voted to protect pets once. And whether it's out of passion or because they felt the pressure we applied, it worked. they took a step towards advancing animal protections and maybe even see themselves as animal advocates because of their participation in the whole process. And that gives us a strong foundation to build on. So we're going to go back and ask them to continue protecting pests. And it's not a giant leap. It's a natural progression. It's another small step that they can take in the right direction. What we're looking for is a domino effect, building on what we've done and where we've already had success. So you can be a part of this, no matter what your experience or background. I didn't have any special talents when I got started. I just wanted things to change, and I know you feel the same way. I am you, and you are me. We share the same fears, the same determination, and the same compassion. So let's do this. The future we're building is a Colorado that protects animals with its laws. And it isn't just possible, it's already happening. So I promise you this, the best is yet to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kara. What an inspiration she is. I hope you all can get involved. Doesn't take much. You don't have to do a lot of work. A couple of hours a week, couple of hours a month. Get involved, please. Our next speaker is Julia Archer. I met her about 2 years ago when we both got involved with the campaign to ban trophy hunting in Colorado, Proposition 127. We lost, but we won at the same time because we learned a lot. And when we go forward to the next campaign, we'll know what to do, and I guarantee you we'll win the next time for the animals. So Julia?
Hello, everybody. Hello, I'm so happy to be here amongst the people. And I have an idea. So I'm here to tell a love story. The title of the story is called The Vegan and the Carnivore. It's kind of like Beauty and the Beast, but it applies to what we all are doing as advocates. And my issue is I'm in the shade up here, and y'all are in the shade over there. And this is a very personal story. So what we've decided to do is I'm actually going to go over to that tree, and I'm not going to use the microphone. I can project my voice well. And we would like to have a story time with all of you. And my friend Rhonda is helping. She's going to put some quilts for folks to sit on if you want it. So we'll take a moment to reassemble by that tree. Kids super welcome and adults super welcome. So this is a love story. It's titled The Vegan and the Carnivore, and we'd love to have you gather by that tree. And we'll start in about a half a minute. So rise and shine, people. Come on and hear the story. Come on, turn your chairs, especially kids, and especially the young at heart, and especially people who love animals. Come on in. Thank you, thank you. I love those earrings. Those are so good. Yes. All who wish to hear a love story, a fairy tale, thank you, Sue, titled The Vegan and the Carnivore, come this way. So imagine, are we here? Everyone, can y'all hear me? Okay, I'm going to sit down. Can y'all still see me and hear me? Okay. All right, my friends, and I'm going to kind of read it. So imagine that you are sitting through the ages around a fire or in a cozy place or in a beautiful place like this with folks that share your values, because we know that people change through stories. All right, so here's the, so you ready for a story? Yes, awesome. All right, once upon a time, just a little bit ago, a child was born. This child probably grew up much like you. This little child was born into a time and place
Hey,
where
Sally, can you turn off your
they
mic?
could turn a magic handle and they got fresh, clean water anytime they wanted from multiple magical springs in their home. These magical springs were called faucets. Full of nice things to wear, coats, dresses, shoes, even yoga pants. It seemed to her that magical, invisible, benevolent hands had sewed them just for her. She didn't know really, and back then it didn't occur to this little girl or this little boy to ask. And the food, the abundant food, just like their water and their clothing, the food magically appeared in the tall white box in the kitchen. Her family ate all the food that she did too. Like the other magical things, she simply accepted the food from the tall white box. For example, she liked to eat eggs, but she never actually saw the chicken that laid the egg, so it didn't occur to her until she was some years older that she had never asked the hen if the hen had laid the egg for her. She had not even met any hen. So somehow she learned that the tall white box in the kitchen was filled with cruelty. She learned agriculture, animals. She saw what undercover investigations revealed. She visited sanctuaries and rescues, like this one, and met the animals that she had previously eaten. She witnessed their profound innocence and their sentience. And just here, it broke a million pieces. I bet that many of you know that feeling, right? Yeah. She stopped, so that was it. She stopped eating the eggs, the dairy, and the meat in her own way. She invited others to see the cruelty hiding in the tall white box in the kitchen. Time passed. She knew there was much work to be done, but she was making a positive difference, and that felt good and kind. So this is a love story, right? So her adventure was about to take a deeper turn.
She got an iPhone.
The little girl just loved the woods. Every insect, bird, animal, and plant had. Some of you understand this too. Yeah. But just as this little person had not known the truth about what lived and died in the tall white box in the kitchen, the woman was about to learn that the plague of indifference and the craving to dominate reached beyond the industrial farm into the woods and forests that she loved. This new chapter of her journey started with another magical implement like the faucets in the fridge. Like you, she carried a small magical box that brought voices, images, and information to her. One day, the magical box invited her into a conversation, and actually several people here as well. In that conversation, she learned that just like animals trapped in the industrial farm system, her fellow humans were perpetuating incredible hidden cruelty in the woods that she loved. She did not know that recreational trophy hunting for wild friends just for the thrill of the kill or the stuffed cat on the wall was a legal thing here in our state. her friends, vegan and non-vegan, hadn't known either. She learned that our beautiful and vitally important mountain lions, our Colorado mountain lions, were being hounded, cornered, or treed and shot to death for fun or profit or both. But wait, she thought that trophy hunting was a very bad thing that only wealthy men did in faraway places like Africa, the place where many of you know a dentist from Minnesota killed a very famous lion named Cecil. When she realized,
I know the kind of guy you're picturing that has an AI.
Want to take the next step with Intivio? Then it's time to talk.
sorry, you guys,
With Intivio, you may
when she realized,
$5 per dose. Plus, our team can help connect you with additional support programs.
you know what we're doing? We're clicking power off. All right, my friends. So when she realized that even wild animals right here in Colorado couldn't escape our savage consumption of their lives, she knew that she had to learn how to fight this force that devours what is most precious, as we are all doing, as we are all continuing to learn how to do. She found allies, and here we are, and she became a foot soldier in what she thought of as the army of the kind. And then it happened. The woman, now no longer young, but much wiser, fell in love with one special mountain lion. So how did this dedicated urban plant eater fall in love with a wild apex carnivore? Here is how. She saw his picture as a young lion. His name is Larrabee. He is a real lion. Larrabee was discovered almost lifeless in a backyard in Nebraska. He had a sibling who ran away. Their mother was found dead nearby. Larrabee was saved by a kind human. He now lives at the Albuquerque Zoo, and that's how I found his picture. It appeared. So now you might have guessed that the little person who grew up with the magic tall white food box, who grew into the foot soldier, was in fact the storyteller, me. Anyway, in the picture, Larrabee's magnificent young face is filled with resignation and sorrow, but especially longing. Longing for the life he was born to live that will now never come to be. When I look into Larrabee's eyes, I see my own sorrow and longing. I know that Larrabee the mountain lion and I are not so different. When I touch the mystery of his wild spirit, I recognize my own. When I feel that wonder and love, along with the grief and the passion to help. So I'm a human vegan. He is a non-human carnivore, yet the love in me for him and his brothers and sisters in the wild is profound. So we all have a wild spirit. Every single living being has a wild spirit. I reckon each and every one of us are born to live it, even within a society that domesticates, dominates, and controls. As compassionate humans, we work to liberate farmed animals, for example, like Love and Arms, and many of us. I say, let us make our circle of compassion even bigger to include our wild relatives. Every creature on this beautiful earth deserves to thrive and must thrive for the whole big game to continue. There's a beautiful quote that I love that I hope maybe you take into your heart. In the end, we will conserve only what we love. We will love only what we understand. And we will understand only what we are taught. So I keep my friend Larrabee in my heart,
and I extend an invitation. So that's my story, everybody. That's my story about Larrabee. My lion man. I love him. My teacher. So one of the things we did, and several of us are trained in this, we thought to ourselves, we know, and Ellen was like, are you going to do 10 minutes or a little more? I haven't timed it. But we know that most Coloradans either don't know that our wildlife is trapped and killed. Project Coyote's here for coyotes and all wildlife. Colorado Wild is here. All of us know that the issue, as so many people have spoken, is bigger than farmed animals. It's just the whole planet. So one thing we've done, we know that the vast majority of us in Colorado deeply disapprove of recreational killing. Many of us didn't even know that it was happening. And I'm focused in this particular project, we're doing just a pilot program to educate people about my friend Larrabee, his brothers and sisters. It's specifically about mountain lions, but it is a free thing. We come to you or we Zoom it. And it's about an hour. It's a 30-minute presentation. And we answer questions. We talk about mountain lions and all the other carnivores and how we too, when we help save the wild, we also bring that consciousness into the farm. When we help save the farm, we bring it out into the wild. So my friend Rhonda is wandering with our flyers. And please visit her booth and my friend Mark's booth. And yay for animals. Thank you for listening. By the way, everybody, this was the first public telling of this story. So when it's done, let me know how you liked it. We're good. Thank you.
Never expected that, but we loved it. So our next speaker, he sent me her bio, which I thought I would read rather than try to explain who she is, because she's amazing and has quite the background. She flew in from Los Angeles to be with us today.
It was live on the channel if you want to check it out.
She's a practicing veterinarian in the Los Angeles area. Oh, let's see.
Hopefully the sound looks works. You can check. Pushed it up a
She's
little.
working on a project bringing exposure to avian flu in dairy cows. And she's been driving around the state.
This, let's use this as a stand. Hey everyone, how's it going? Sky, can you see me okay? Okay, and sounds okay for people. Veterinarian, and veterinarians do enter this profession because we love animals and we want to protect them. But a lot of people ask me, why don't veterinarians do more for animals? I think we've all had that frustration of reaching out to our veterinarians and they're not wanting to help our cause or campaign. And veterinarians are among the most trusted professionals in society. Yet that trust has been weaponized by corporate interests who have used the veterinary profession, our credibility, to legitimize systems of cruelty, systems that prioritize production efficiency over the best interests of animals. But what if we had veterinarians on our side? What kind of rapid progress could our movement make if more veterinarians joined us? And I want to encourage all activists to consider focusing their outreach efforts on the veterinary profession to maximize our effectiveness. So why did veterinarians and animal advocates ever become adversaries in the first place? Historically, the veterinary profession helped working horses and animals raised for food. Now that's much different. 11% of veterinarians work on animals that are raised for food. The vast majority of us work on companion animals, but we're told to stay in our lane. We're not to criticize our colleagues who work in food production or in experimentation. And they don't feel empowered to criticize these practices for fear that they're going to appear as condemning their colleagues. And unfortunately, many vegans and animal rights activists self-select against entering the veterinary profession. They learn what veterinarians have to do, and we miss out as a profession by the absence of their compassionate voices. And many who do pursue the career have reported that admissions committees are actively hostile towards veterinarians and towards animal advocates and vegans and anyone with a history of animal advocacy. Despite this, some do make it into veterinary school, but once inside, they're afraid to speak out for fear of professional backlash and ostracization. The system trains students to be deferential to authority, to use euphemisms like euthanize instead of kill. They refer to animals as it, and they're taught not to question authority. They're taught to obey hierarchies. And they're told to suppress their empathy in service of the so-called greater good. And so this culture sort of dampens that activist inside. By contrast, the human and medical field have with vulnerabilities. The medical profession is trying to fix the culture that allows doctors to betray their conscience and those they're supposed to serve. In that way, they've paved the way already for veterinarians to do the same. But the veterinary profession has failed to reckon with its own moral vulnerabilities. Not only is it behind, but it's moving backwards. But our honor, my organization, is working to change that. As a shelter veterinarian, I'm proud that we have made great strides in saving homeless dogs and cats from abuse and neglect. In the 1970s, 13.5 million animals were killed in shelters each year. But because of the efforts of activists working together with shelters, that number has dropped by some reports to less than 1 million. That's because a shift happened in our society. The tireless efforts of activists drawing attention to the plights of dogs and people joined together, formed rescue groups to help municipal shelters improve accessibility to spay and neuter services, and pressured shelter management to change the systems to prioritize compassion. Now we have to enact that same strategy for animals used for experimentation, animals in zoos. But what barriers do veterinarians face for speaking out? In 2020, I raised concerns about terminal laboratories in veterinary schools. This is a practice in which students are forced to animals to practice procedures. I also started speaking out more about the harms of animal-based protein production. The response, I faced an onslaught of character assassination and retaliation. My face was shared online as a meme emblazoned with the word beware. It said I had an agenda that meant nothing good for the veterinary profession, and I was labeled a dangerous extremist. The story shows just what a threat veterinarians, who are vital messengers to the public, pose to the industries that exploit animals when we finally speak out against harmful corporate practices. But I wasn't alone. That backlash opened doors. Journalists, veterinarians, and students began reaching out, sharing their stories of retaliation and betrayal. We realized we needed each other. We needed to organize. And so our honor was born. Today, our honor is a growing community of veterinarians, students, and animal professionals working to align veterinary medicine with the ethics it claims to uphold. We are experts who are working to challenge harmful practices and end our dependence on animal-based protein production. And the media is listening. In 2024 alone, we had 87 press hits, including a front page story in the New York Times. We've also been featured in the Washington Post, Salon, Time Magazine, The Intercept, Newsweek, The Guardian, and many more. Journalists now reach out to us when they need a trustworthy veterinary perspective rooted in ethics and honesty. And this year, we've already had 25 media hits, including a recent collaboration with 60 Minutes for a story about avian influenza. This unprecedented avian influenza outbreak represents a critical moment that we must leverage. It exposes how all species are interconnected and how animal-based protein production has forced us into this ever-escalating arms race. In the last 2 weeks, Hickman Egg Farm in Arizona exterminated 6 million birds due to backfiring. They will receive $74 million in taxpayer-funded bailouts for the loss of their birds and announced that they will close down for 2 years. What if Greg Hickman used this money and this downtime to transition his egg farm to producing egg protein from potatoes and growing mushrooms? Even meat industry stakeholders are starting to realize our current dependence on animal-based protein production is posing a threat to not only animal welfare, but public health and our food security. Just this week, meat marketing expert Matt Graves wrote on the industry website Meeting Place, "My recommendation for your survival is the investment in and research of cell-cultivated protein. You may not like it now, but by many indications, it will be the way animal protein is produced in the future." Veterinarians should be echoing this and calling for these producers to pivot their business models. Our dependence on animal-based protein ultimately threatens our health and food security. Deliver that message to policymakers and the public, and we are capturing the footage, conversations, and records needed to tell that story. We can dismantle public trust in animal-based protein. But veterinarians and vet students are bombarded with industry propaganda. Veterinarians, institutions actively promote carbon dioxide gas chambers as they defend gestation crates. They claim beef is a climate solution and that animals confined for protein production are better off than animals in the wild. And at the center of this disinformation is the American Veterinary Medical Association. The AVMA, the most powerful veterinary body in the world, banned me, our honor, and other animal protection groups and veterinarians from tabling, speaking at, and attending some of their events. But they welcome corporate sponsors and lobbyists with open arms. But every time we face such backlash, it proves our point and exposes the AVMA for what they are: a tool to benefit corporate interests, not veterinarians and not our patients. But why does the AVMA matter? They are influential in advocating for government policy on animals. They support federal legislation like the EATS Act that would strip their power to regulate animals. And they to receive millions in bailouts using heat stroke. To make matters worse, the ag industry is working day and night to build greater demand for their products, because in the corporate world, if you aren't growing, you're dying. This eagerness to increase demand not only leads to more animal cruelty, but damages public health. Or by the taxpayer-funded USDA, like the National Pork Producers Council, National Pork Board, and Animal Agriculture Alliance, headed by leaders of corporate multinational agribusiness and created for the benefit of multinational corporations, have worked tirelessly to change our habits, our diets, and our laws. They influence our youth through the support of 4-H and FFA, indoctrinating future veterinarians to lend legitimacy to a systemized violence against animals. Myself, I was a former 4-H'er and vice president of my 4-H club. But our honor is changing all of that. We challenge students and professionals to question what they are being taught. We visit schools and speak at conferences. We offer accredited continuing education. We build community, and we give veterinarians the tools to bravely act in alignment with their conscience. We brought our message to over 27,000 professionals at the world's largest veterinary conference. Our booth was a hub of conversation and transformation. And our message resonates because deep down, most veterinarians change. All veterinarians, animal rights aligned or not, empathize with their colleagues who are facing bullying and retaliation for just speaking their conscience. And they just need support. And we have already empowered them the AVMA policies. More and more have stopped deferring to the AVMA as a trusted source for perspectives on animal issues. In a recent poll of more than 3,000 veterinarians, only 1.1% said that they believed exterminations with ventilation shutdown plus were ethical and humane. The vast majority said killing animals with heat stroke was not. Yet the AVMA allows it. And here's our vision. If we empower veterinary professionals with community, education, and support, and use their trusted voices to raise public awareness of, we can shift cultural norms, transform public policy. Veterinarians can be a force for systemic change. We envision a future where every veterinarian and hospital advocates for the interests of all animals. And with your support, animal advocates can wield the veterinary professionals' moral authority to build a healthier world for all species. We have to just help them envision a world they can create, where we don't have to hurt animals. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. He.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to Denver. He's an activist, right, and otherwise, a YouTuber and an award-winning poet and filmmaker. He's also an activist.
Do this. There we go. Using everyone's so short here. How many vegans do we have? Great, because I wrote so vegans that can be even more difficult than doing because we're just no, we just and we humans do this. When we escape one paradigm, we often just rebuild it using the same materials, same recipe, same old aftertaste, same new materials. We replace lies and hierarchies with new lies and hierarchies. The power structures we see, even in this movement, are a version of colonial ideas, security, and control. And everyone says that they hate all. You turn around. All roads lead. If we want to be truly revolutionary, be enlightened thinkers, then we need to see those roads for what they are. Tear them up and lay down and something new called truth. So let's jackhammer up the biggest lie in the vegan community right now, one that persists. You are not vegan for the animals. Abstention from harm, that's the beginning. It's not a solution. And veganism is a moral refusal, not a revolution. The revolution begins when we challenge power. Veganism is one part of a revolutionary mindset, A mindset based on the simple idea that no one owns anybody else, that we are all free, and no one has the right to rob anyone of that liberty unless they have profound justification or this little thing called consent. To take away the life or freedom of another who wants to live and be free, is an affront to our human dignity. That is why the vegan chooses not to participate in the enslavement, because the alternative is antithetical to who they are and who they believe everyone else is, or should be. But hear this, not beating your wife does not help women. Not owning a slave does not help slaves. And being vegan doesn't really help animals. I commend your courage. You stood up to the status quo. You refuse to collaborate with the systems you know are wrong. But if you think going vegan is how you dismantle those systems, you've been lied to. And I'm guilty of telling that lie over and over again when I do. You can make a difference if you just go vegan. But that's not enough. Veganism is a small and important act of resistance, but it's only the seed. It's like an acorn. And I hope it grows into this giant, mighty oak, a personal mission to combat injustice wherever you find it. And it's in that same courage, in the name of that, and I appeal to that now. Because not collaborating with the oppressor is not enough. The animals and all of us need you to screw your courage to the sticking place. When you really stand up and when you strike a blow at the machine, everyone will cry foul. They'll tell you you're doing it all wrong. Even fellow vegans will form a line just to tell you how incorrectly you're throwing your body onto the gears of the odious machine. But you're ready. You've been training for this. You've been practicing resistance calisthenics. You've shrugged off idiotic opinions from friends and family for years. Veganism trained you for this. So, what kind of freedom fighter will you be? This is the real movement. A movement against tyranny, authoritarianism, hierarchy. A rejection of the idea that might makes right. And you'd think as Americans that'd be like, resonate with us, you know, might does not make right is kind of one of our founding ideas. But this game of moral superiority that so many vegans play, like, I'm better than you because I'm vegan. Don't you wish you were as good as me? You should go vegan and be as good as me. That's just the reassertion of oppressive structures. We have plenty of petty tyrants in this world, and the vegan movement doesn't need more of them. And that goes for your theory of change, too. If you think your way is more effective, make your case. Show us, inspire us. But if you denigrate others for fighting the oppressor, you become the oppressor yourself. I've done outreach in almost every US state and several countries, and I've lost count of how many people have told me, well, at least told me, that I was the reason that they are foregoing flesh and fluids of animals. And I've done all kinds of activism in all those places. And I'm here to tell you, I still don't know which way is the right way to do it. And I think that's why they're called theories of change. But I have to beseech you, please don't fall for charlatans and Svengalis preaching the one true way. Because if being vegan is not enough, then convincing others to go vegan is also not enough. It's just monocultural advocacy, and it amounts to nothing. The magic glasses you're wearing, the ones that allow you to see past the gloss of this abattoir life, they come with a curse. You can't take them off, and you can't force others to wear them. But you can teach other people to build their own. You can teach them to question authority, to challenge the status quo. That's the real goal of activism. That's what lasts. That's what breaks the cycle. And that's what makes you immune to the ex-vegan phenomenon. Because if someone sees the world clearly, they can't go back. They can't unsee it. And the world doesn't need more polite vegans either. It needs dangerous ones. dangerous to injustice, dangerous to the systems built on domination. Wow, thank you. Applause break. I appreciate that. We need more dangerous. I see some dangerous vegans in the house, so I appreciate that. Dangerous to the lie that there's no alternative to the darkness that we've inherited. And you already have what you need. That courage I was talking about, the one that you showed, that courage you showed when you broke away from the horde, that was your first act of rebellion. But now I ask you, will you break the wheel? We need architects of a new world, not just those who refuse to participate in cruelty, but those who wake up every day determined to dismantle the cages. Be the kind of activist who doesn't just wake up people to animal suffering, but inspires them to dismantle the machinery that causes it. Don't settle for veganism. Fight for liberation. Teach others not what to eat, how to think. Teach them to ask, who profits from my obedience and who suffers from my silence? Let this movement not be a lifestyle, but a revolution. Build the glasses, draw new blueprints, and light the match. And let us make sure that when history looks back on the vegan movement, it sees not a trend, not a diet, but the spark that helped ignite the end of domination itself. Thank you. My name is Skyjack Morgan. Thank you. Happy Nard.
Well, so I wasn't expecting that. And really, don't you kidding me now? There's more to veganism than what you put in your mouth. So get active. Help the animals. Don't just let someone else do it. You do it. So our next speaker, if you've been an activist for more than 5 minutes, you know who she is. She's loud. She's vocal. I remember one time we were doing Anonymous for the Voiceless on Denver 16th Street Mall, and a carriage horse drove by. She started screaming at the top of her lungs. You know, everyone thought she's crazy, but everyone heard her. So I'd like to invite Miriam Shuko to come up, please. A little faster.
You guys were both great.
Thanks, Annette. Thank you.
I was watching your thing.
Oh, awesome.
Although I had to get a picture of Ellen. Not stuck.
Oh, no. There it is.
It sounds very hot. Anyway, let's try. It's really hot.
Happens.
Yeah. Stop it and start again. Anyway, I was trying to watch it
That's awesome.
so you could get extra people.
Looks like there's a few watching on there, but there's a lot watching on her Twitter too.
I stopped Twitter.
Me too.
I was really into Twitter for our band, and then once Musk, I was just like exiting the interway. I'll do Instagram. It's,
I had to do everything on YouTube now. Just because, like,
And my species
it seems just like
derailed by non-vegan.
the people are good and they pay. So
Stay on track. Bring them back. And I forget. So my time is about being derailed by non-vegan self-manipulation. So, in short, I call it as acronym NVSM. So what is non-vegan selfish manipulation? Non-vegan getting their way to get you to make your outreach to be about recipes, food, health, diet, and such. To further explain, when outreaching to non-vegans, have you ever found yourself speaking to them about recipes and diet instead of the plight of the animals, and trying to convince them to make the switch for their health?
instead of convincing them to go vegan for the animal's sake? Well, good to know that it's because the non-vegan that you were outreaching to, they were the ones that managed to manipulate you to switch your outreaching about the animals into speaking about health, diet, or food. That's right. Your outreaching magically switched from talking about the suffering animals to talking about their health. They were the ones that cleverly managed to get you to make that switch. Ain't that something? That's an example of envyism. And I call such manipulation selfish because it is when they do that, it's because they do not have any interest in hearing about what the animals are going through. They could care less because of their desire to consume animal products and or their health means more to them. And so it's solely about them, what they want when they do that. Hence, selfish manipulation. Why, knowing that, do we vegan activists feel the need to be compelled to accommodate and entertain a non-vegan excuse of, oh, I love cheese too much. Oh, no way, I'm going vegan. I love my chicken. Why? Why entertain that? Well, while you're trying to figure out why we do that, I'd like you to know the truth of why non-vegans love to derail us. It is intentionally done, intentionally to distract you from talking to them about the plight of the animals. That's right. They want to sidetrack you away from educating them about the reality of animal agriculture, away from describing to them the truth of the horrific way these helpless animals are being treated, aka the oppression, exploitation, the incarceration, confinement, the torture, torment, the terror, and other atrocity and devastation they experience each and every day from the moment they are born because of people's choice of wanting to consume it or wear them and or use them. That's what they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear all that because they don't want the guilt. That's the real reason they do that. They use psychology on us to derail us from speaking to them about that, to protect themselves from guilt tripping while the poor animals are suffering because of their consumerism. It is none other than envyism, non-vegan selfish manipulation. So now that we know that, it's important that we always remember the purpose of our outreach and bring them back to the main reason why we are outreaching, which is to get them to go vegan, not for their sake, not for their health's sake, for the animal's sake. When we are outreaching to educate them, it's to bring awareness about the truth of what the animals are really going through for every single thing they purchase that comes from animals, for every entertainment they attend that are using animals, for every product that they buy that are testing on animals, and so on and so on. And so it's important that they know that the reason we are outreaching to the public is because humans are the direct cause, the root of the problem as to why so many innocent animals are suffering unnecessarily. And for that, I advise that we constantly tell ourselves, as a reminder, I'm not here to talk about food, health, diet, and such. I'm here to speak for the animals that are suffering, to be their voice, to bring awareness of the truth, to educate them for the purpose of making vegans for the animals' sake and nothing else. Now, when it comes to food, a lot of us vegan are educated on alternatives, and we love to show off that skill, don't we? We do. And when but what we fail to realize is that when we are derailed when we feed into the subject. We stop talking about the animal suffering and we're talking about the health instead. For example, and this is the most common of how they try to derail us. If they say something like, but if I go vegan, that's going to be hard because I love cheese and ice cream too much. You might be eager to answer them with, oh, there are a lot of alternatives and it tastes really good. And you can go to Google and YouTube and Facebook even, and you can find recipes there. And so on and so on. But is that what our reaching is about? Is it about taste? Is it about food? Is it about health? Is it about people's eating habits and food addiction? No, it's not. We need to keep our focus on the purpose and bring them back, because our outreach is for the fact that the animals are suffering and we want to stop it. And so, no, we ain't got that time to waste talking about food diversity and all that. There are people that we need to plant seeds on, right? So, no, for the animals' sake, please do not allow them to selfishly derail your way like that. Because when you give in to that, you actually run off track, helping people go on a plant-based diet instead of convincing them to make a change for the animal's sake. And so be careful. Stay on track and bring them back. For example, let's say they express concern that they may not be able to adapt because of how they love the taste of certain animal food. Instead of saying, oh, that's no problem, there are alternatives now that taste so close. No, say instead, so I'd like to know, do you even care about the animal suffering? Because that's no problem. If you really care about the animals, you will learn. You will find a way to adapt. And then continue educating them, help them realize that fact, that when that light comes on, they will find their way. Just like we did. Because remember, every one of us who went vegan, and I mean truly vegan, meaning true empathy for the animal's sake, we all found our way on our own. Such as we asked questions and we got to alternatives, we looked up recipes on our own, we went to various social media Google and vegan meetings and to get educated. We dive into YouTube, Google, and vegan groups searching for answers and buying cookbooks and stuff. If they really care, they too will research and learn on their own. So we really do not need to go there wasting time talking about their food addiction. No. Well, saying we're not trying to help people. We're not trying to help people get on a plant-based diet. We're trying to make vegans. That's what we need to remember. We're not there to make plant-based diet. And now, I hate to say this, but we don't realize that there is a probable cognitive dissonance of a sort of hypocrisy coming from some of us. Like, how many times do we true vegan have to repeat? Veganism is not a diet. It's not about taste. It's not about our selfish convenience. It's not about health. It's totally about the animals that are suffering. From the time they are born for various unnecessary reasons, such as not only just for food, but also for clothing, fashion, furniture, entertainment, footwear, bag, purses, and wallets, belts, rugs, and bedding, experiments and market testing, and building anything and everything, and so on and so on and so on. How many times do we have to explain that? And yet, here we are talking to them about food, diet, and health in our vegan outreach. How does that sound? Such hypocritical to me. And so that's why it's important that we keep ourselves on track. So what if you stay on track and bring them back, but they keep insisting on making it to be about food and diet and such? At that point, our outreach to that person is no longer valid and a total waste of time. And so the best thing to do is gently close up the conversation. Do not get distracted, do not get upset, but do speak up, be bold, be stern, and direct. And close up by telling them something like, okay, well, at this point, I'm sorry, but I have to end the discussion because you keep bringing up food, diet, your health, and taste bud, and that's just not what my outreach is about. My outreach is about the suffering animals. And that's now, but please come back if by any chance you get that wake-up call in regard to the truth of what the animals are going through and you feel you need help with that. And then please end it with, in the meantime, please watch a special documentary called The Minion in YouTube. I highly recommend it because it will help to give you an idea of what our outreach for the animals is really about. And then move on. Move on. Tell them, have a nice day. After that, and move on. The animals are suffering. We don't have time to be going back and forth, okay? Like I said, there are other people you don't want to miss out on to plant seeds upon. What we vegan activists need to know is that 99% fact that they keep derailing you by making it to be about food, health, diet, and such. They're not interested in changing for the animal's sake. It's all about them. And so even if you show them videos of vegan food, show them vegan recipes, and show them alternatives and such to convince them to make the switch, they still don't give a hoot about the poor suffering animals. And so they will continue to contribute to animal cruelty in many, many other ways. No, that's not okay. And so it's why We need to quit wasting our time being sidetracked, talking about food, diet, and health, and bring yourself back to speaking up about the poor animals' demise. And now, the goodie, which is, if they really show a genuine concern, and right there and then they express the genuine desire to go vegan because of the suffering animals, then you can talk about food alternatives and health and all that all you want. But until then, please do not allow them to sidetrack you. Always bring them back. Keep your focus on the purpose of your outreach, which is to bring awareness of the animals that are suffering. Thank you.
Wow. You think she's enthusiastic? So we've saved the best for last. It's a group that I started working with a few years ago when they proposed ballot initiatives to shut down the slaughterhouse in Denver and to ban the sale of fur in Denver. You know, it's unfortunately another one of those things where we failed, but we came away a lot wiser. And so they're making another attempt. I shouldn't say another attempt because this is going to pass. And they announced it Friday night at a special launch party. And we're going to ban foie gras in Denver. And so I'd like to have all the pro-animal future people come up. That guy in the green back there too. So we can all applaud them for the work they're doing. And so there'll be Anne, and I don't know who that is. Oh, Anne's partner.
Hey, I'm gonna try to get to a place where it doesn't feed back to squawks. 1 second. So prepare your booze, prepare your booze. So for Animal Futures model, I've been an animal rights activist for about 10 years now. Actually, 1 second, I'm gonna put squawks there. She's not liking this. Sorry about that. So for Animal Futures idea is that not every single person is going to want to go vegan. And I know that sucks. I spent 9.5 years trying to make the world do it. And eventually, you know, I didn't give up, but I came to Colorado and I met somebody who told me that the thing that they do in Colorado is pro Animal Future. And I was like, what's that? And they said, well, we're trying to ban fur in slaughterhouses. And I was like, you're trying to ban what? They're like, slaughterhouses. So I didn't think that was even possible. I went to an animal rights conference in 2019, and they made us do this practice activity where they said, let's come up with a ballot initiative that stands a real chance at passing. And then I came up with one. I was like, you know, I don't think people like artificial insemination. So if that passed, that would have huge ramifications for the industry, you know? And then I stopped thinking about it because I was like, if this was a good idea, somebody would have done it already. So I gave up. And I think that was a mistake. But I moved to Colorado and I met people that were trying to use ballot initiatives to help animals. And I was thinking, well, but you know, if that's what they're doing, then that's what I'm going to try. So I started talking to people on the street, and it seemed like people wanted to ban slaughterhouses. Like I could actually get people to sign the petition. So I thought, even if this gets on the ballot, that's bizarre. That's something I didn't even think the animal rights movement was ready for. Because, and what a lot of people call the vegan movement, we're operating with about 1 to 3% of people in America. And unfortunately, that's just not enough to make a real political difference. I know that Squawks shows that animals do have a voice. They have a very loud voice sometimes, but they don't have a voice in government. So raise your hand if you love the NRA. No one? No, I was kidding. I don't really like them either. But we're trying to be the NRA for animals. So we're trying to build political power. So we're trying to get a lot of signups. We're trying this year to meet with a lot of politicians, tell them, listen, we got a lot of people in your district. We know their address, and we're going to email blast them and tell them not to vote for you. We have great campaigners. People are going to put up flyers everywhere. People are going to advertise a candidate that is oppositional to you if you don't do what we say about animals. And that's kind of been the NRA strategy for a long time, is like them or hate them, they know that people have power. So back to the fur ban and slaughterhouse ban. So we actually got on the ballot, and I'm sure most of you have heard about that now. And it didn't pass, but we ended up getting the attention of the Meat Avengers. So they spent $2.5 million fighting our campaign. And I was thinking, no amount of cans of beans I ever bought got them that pissed off. So 9.5 years, I was like, dang, I wish I spent it doing this, you know? Even if I just bashed my head against the wall doing this campaign over and over and over, making them lose millions of dollars, that could be like the best thing I've ever done, you know? But Animal Future is trying to adjust their strategy. They shot for the moon and they landed amongst the stars. They had a lot of political connections. They got a lot of attention. One of the largest cities in America, Denver, this was their top political issue. And that was animals. I thought that could never happen, maybe even in my lifetime, but it was. So now Animal Future is becoming this force to be reckoned with. And we got 32% of Denver voters to ban slaughterhouse, to want to ban slaughterhouses, which was, in my opinion, absurd. So we're now trying to ban foie gras. For people that are not familiar, it's a rich people delicacy that's sold at French restaurants, where they shove a pipe in a duck's throat, a metal pipe, and then they shove oil and corn down their throat so that their stomach expands and they're eating way more food than they naturally eat. And then their liver expands up to 10 times their natural size. So it's basically legalized animal torture. And I have really high hopes for it because yesterday we just went to some random event with a lot of people at it. We got 180 signatures. And the only reason we didn't get more was because we ran out of all of our papers that we had brought. So it seems like people in Denver do not like foie gras. So I'm really hoping that this can be our initiative that catapults Pro Animal Future into the limelight as an organization to be reckoned with. And we're hoping to expand to a bunch of other places. Right now we're doing DC and Portland, Oregon as our next targets. And we're just going to expand and expand and expand, get more political power for animals, make people fear animal supporters. And we're going to become, hopefully, the NRA. So what you're looking at, that little tent over there, that was an organization that was started in 2023. And in a period of a year, they became a primary target for the meat industry. So they have insider magazines like Meat and Poultry Magazine, where they talk about some of their greatest fears and everything and insider information. And they just talk openly about Pro Animal Future and how much they're scared of us. They say, we are exceptionally dangerous. They said that we're going to expand to a bunch of places around the US. And even people online have absolutely bizarre ideas about Pro Animal Future. They think that we're a much larger organization than we actually are just because of our impact. So if you've been to Denver, you've probably seen that the entire city is just littered with flyers about animal rights. And that is something that can only be done with a massive campaign like Pro Animal Future did, with much lower budget than pretty much any other major political organization. And part of why I think vegans think that they're so hopeless and that we have to keep getting more and more vegans, which we do, which I think it is admirable to do, they think that we can't do anything because there's so few of us. But there are people that love animals out there. And unfortunately, they're not going to align their actions with their values. But Pro Animal Future is, in my opinion, or the first one I noticed, is an organization that just accepts that as a reality, that we're going to have to work with people who don't think exactly like us, willing to align their morals with their actions. But there's so many people out there that love animals. And we're just throwing away political power by not accepting that and thinking that we can't do anything, and trying to get involved in government and make a name for ourselves is just a hopeless process. And Pro Animal Future has showed that it's not hopeless. You can have massive campaigns with a very small amount of people, because the sad reality is that each vegan is one consumer and they're one voter. And you can try to get as many people as possible to be exactly like you, but they're not. Like, I'm trying to make this sound like not arrogant, but I feel like you people won't mind. But like what I'm looking at here is like, they're like the cream of the crop people. They're willing to work 10 times harder than anyone else. And the thing is, you can turn that 10 times harder you believe in something into political power. Because no matter how much you believe in something, your voice is going to be equal to somebody who's not sure how to vote on something. And when they're not sure how to vote on something, most of the time they vote no, because the status quo is safe. Because when people don't know what to do, that's like an industry tactic, is they're on record, a bunch of different organizations, and like, I don't know the word for it, but they say, if you can just make people confused, then you win, because people will always vote for the status quo before something that's going to change their lives. So what I'm hoping is, this is kind of lazy, so I hope you don't think less of us for this, but we currently have a petition right now before the real petition that we're putting out, where we're just trying to get Denver City Council to pass it themselves so we can spend the money and volunteer hours that we have doing something else and helping animals in a different way. So we're just trying to get as many people as possible to sign a petition that says, Denver City Council, please, for the love of God, just pass a foie gras ban so that we don't have to do it. And if we do get Denver City Council to pass that, that means that we can start working on something else. And that means that Pro Animal Future would have already had an easy win. So this moment in time could be very important. I'm not sure exactly what the odds are that Denver City Council is going to actually pass what we want, no matter how many signatures we get. But hearing about like how successful stopping puppy mills has been, I know Cara is a monster and nobody else would like her, so she's able to do things that nobody else can do. But I'm hoping Denver City Council is able to just pass this. So thank you all. Thanks for being extremely cool. And I hope that you're willing to work 10 times harder than anyone else for a cause that you believe 10 times more in. And that's it.
Well, that's it, folks. This concludes National Animal Rights Day for 2025. We still have some vendors around. I urge you to make sure you stop by and say hello. We've got t-shirts for sale. It's on a donation as you choose basis. So if you haven't gotten a t-shirt, please do. And that's it. First Sunday, just one more thing to say.
We currently have a donor match going on. So if you donate to Pro Animal Future right now, it will mean that somebody else will double it. So if you ever thought about donating to something, that would be a pretty sweet time.
And Squawks agrees. So thank you, everybody, for coming. We'll see you next year. Oh. Jonathan next. And Doug still want to come on stage and do some music to say goodbye to us. Looks like they're coming up, so if you want to stick around for some more music, that would be great. If not, thank you very much. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for helping the animals.